to this computer. There we go. So my name is Larry. I'm the Vice President of the Mid-Island Electric Vehicle Association. And every second Saturday, we do a little coffee gathering. And 2 weeks ago, we had Dave Baer from Harris Kia here talking about the EV6 and the challenges they're having getting new EVs in. And with the PST being removed this week from used EVs, thought would be ideal time to ask Julian Sale from Motorize Electric Vehicles in Victoria to join us. So Julian, tell us all about used EVs and what we need to look for when we're looking for them. And now I see Barb McClellan is coming on. She's the president of Mid-Island Electric. Temper that comment about the smart EV that you used earlier.
Yeah.
Because that's what she drives.
Well, there's nothing wrong with smarts. They're great.
Yeah.
I think the question up front was originally, where do you start with used EVs? Like anyway, but yeah, the smart being the smallest and lowest cost, certainly a good alternative.
Hard to get.
Yeah, well, they didn't produce very many, and they didn't sell that many as a result of low production. So yeah, there's not a ton of them around. That's for sure.
No, people want them, and you can't get them. I could sell mine, 10 times over.
And
would you sell yours?
Nope.
Just so you know, I'm going to ask everybody here repeatedly to sell me their EVs. Just a disclaimer up front.
So. We might sell you our Bolt.
I bought a Bolt yesterday and I'm looking for more. So.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, we're waiting for our new battery. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll buy it with or without the new battery. Doesn't matter to me.
All righty. Well,
but yeah, so we'll touch on the PST thing for a sec. The PST thing is really cool. The Victoria EV Club worked for a long time to make a bunch of proposals to provincial government to help with EV adoption and whatnot. And Glenn Gary and David Grove and Jim Henshaw worked super hard on some government communications. I'm glad to see that some of their ideas have been put into motion. And it's really cool that our provincial government is actually allowing a tax credit or a tax exemption for EVs that are used. It's super cool. It's going to make EVs more affordable for a lot of people who found cost to be a big barrier. And I think the way that it's structured is definitely in favor of the lower price tag of a used EV. Unfortunately, the high demand of EVs is sort of pushing prices up right now, just as a result of supply and demand. We're seeing EV prices go up, which we'd like to see them go down over time. But the tax thing really helps a lot. So I think it's going to help to spur the further adoption of EVs. So yeah, does anybody have any specific question about what to look for? And I guess the first question should be, is anybody here actively shopping for an EV, and what questions are on the top of mind?
I have a question.
Sure.
So from my little knowledge of EVs, it seems like they shouldn't be charged to the maximum, and others 100%. They should only be charged to 80%. So how do you know in an old vehicle how it's been charged?
Okay, so that's kind of a two-part question. So first of all, I will address the second part of the question, which is how do you know how it's been charged? It's fairly straightforward with most brands. Now, some brands like Nissan Leaf actually show you kind of a battery health meter on the dash, and it's a good indicator of overall battery health, but it doesn't tell the whole story. So there's a couple things you can do. Number one, a real world range test is a big deal in any EV. If you know what it was advertised at new, and you know whether the vehicle could actually achieve the new range, the new advertised range when new, and say you're looking at a car that's got 150,000 kilometers and it's 5 years old, we can charge it up all the way and go and do a range test and see what it can really do. And then you get a pretty good understanding of how much capacity you've lost over time. We have seen some batteries get a reputation for being more or less reliable than others. I've got a 2016 Kia Soul about 30 feet behind me right now. It's only got, I think, 39,000 kilometers on it, and the battery's absolutely toast. And it's $32,000 for a new battery. It's not covered under warranty. So yeah, we got some unusual dead batteries here and there. So for the most part, what we like to do is stick with the kind of the newer tech batteries that we know last longer. Tesla has amazingly durable batteries. Anything that's liquid cooled is going to outlast anything that's air cooled. The Nissan Leaf and the Kia Soul are air cooled batteries. And they don't have a good way of getting rid of heat, rejecting heat. So Yeah, in terms of knowing what's left in a battery, talk to an expert. That's the easiest way. But essentially, the backyard test is listen, fill it up all the way, see what it indicates, take it for a drive, and see if what it indicates is relative to what you can actually get. You know, if a car charges up to 180 kilometers, and you reset the trip meter and go for a 50-kilometer drive, you would expect that the fuel gauge would indicate somewhere around 130 when you're done that trip. If it shows that you have 50K left after you drove 50 and started with 180, well, you've got a problem and the battery's not as healthy as you might think. So that's the quick back of the napkin kind of test for you. But having said that, battery health tests for Kia Soul and Nissan Leaf are really easy. You can get a Leaf Spy or a Soul Spy report with a little Wi-Fi dongle and a free app on your phone, and that'll give you a more in-depth look at the battery condition. And most cars, if they've got a battery problem, you'll get some sort of a warning light on the dash indicating that there's a malfunction in the EV systems. So that can be an indicator of issues. But yeah, I think it's critical to know that the majority of EVs have had an 8-year, 160,000 K or further warranty on the battery and the drive systems, EV systems. So if you're looking for a used EV, even if it's 6, 7, 8 years old and has 150,000 K, there's likely possibly still some warranty on the battery. So it's important to understand when you're buying a high value item. 10 or 15 grand is still a lot of money. So yeah, you can contact the manufacturer or your dealer and just ask, listen, what's the warranty coverage on this thing? And you'd be surprised to find out how much manufacturer's warranty is still covering a lot of these older, lower priced EVs on the road. So yeah, so that covers the battery degradation part. And what was the first part of your question?
Oh, I was just in line of that. I hear some people may charge 100%, and
oh yeah,
you're only supposed to charge 80%.
Yeah, so when EVs first came out, like the Nissan Leaf, they had a long life mode on them, and the user could select whether they were going to charge to 100 or 80%. But Nissan got rid of that in 2016, I think. They deleted that because of a lawsuit. They got sued in the US because people said, well, when I put it on long life mode, I don't get the same range. So that's not fair to advertise it with X range when it only gets X range if you put it in long life mode. Same thing with the Toyota RAV4 EV. It had the long life mode for the battery. So most manufacturers kind of got rid of that. Tesla still uses it, and a few other manufacturers do use the 80% or 90% cutoff rule or allow you an adjustable ceiling. It could be said that you shouldn't really keep any lithium ion battery fully charged for any period longer than 8 hours. What happens when you charge these batteries up to 100%, or let's say over 95%, they start to eat themselves. The high voltage capacity inside batteries, or a high voltage limit, forces, basically it allows physical damage to occur to the anodes in batteries and cathodes, and they kind of corrode and destroy themselves at high voltage values. So you just want to keep them away from that area. Now, cars like the Chevy Volt and recently the Bolt, after the recall that reduced range on those, they were electronically limited to stay away from high voltage situations. So you can't charge them up fully anyway. Some manufacturers give you the option to overcharge the car for trips, which is great if you need to squeeze out every last ounce of travel. But the majority of cars have electronic limiters. And for example, if you look at, I don't know, pretty much all modern cars, when they say they're charged to 100%, they're actually not. They're probably somewhere between 90 and 95%. When they say they're empty, they're actually not. They have a reserve. So the BMS, or the battery management system, will provide a buffer on the top of the battery and the bottom. And so the consumers can happily go about their way, driving their cars and charging it up and draining it way down low. And it's never really going to hurt the battery much because it's never actually staying full. If the consumer thinks that they're at 100 and they work quickly to get it back down again the next morning or whatever, well, if it turns out the BMS is telling or displaying 100%, but it's only at 95, well, they've built in that buffer to protect the battery. And manufacturers know that if they have a big issue with a lot of failed batteries, it's really bad for business. So they generally attempt to make sure that the BMS encourages the user not to keep it full or empty. So,
okay,
so
thanks.
You don't really have to worry about it. I will also say that battery technology is improving so fast. When Nissan started building the Leaf in 2011, 2012, they were building these Japanese batteries. The manufacturers have to choose between long life, thermal resiliency, total energy capacity, weight, or energy density per kilogram. There's all these different factors that they have to try and account for. How does it charge when it's cold? what about the expansion and contraction characteristics of the battery? If we DC fast charge a cold battery, is it going to physically break the case that it's in because it expands too much? So, you know, there's a lot of engineers working really hard to come up with the perfect mix. And the first batteries that came out, those 11 and 12 leafs, they were amazing and super high tech at the time. But by the time the 2013 chemistry rolled around for the Tennessee built leafs, they were laughing at the old chemistry they used in 11 and 12. They learned a lot. And the new batteries kept getting bigger and better and better and better. So essentially the stuff that has been produced since maybe on average 2016 forward has been infinitely better than the first few years of stuff that came out. Having said that, we've still got, you know, we've got, like we just sold a Leaf yesterday that's got 180,000 K on it, and it's 2014. So it's 7, 8 years old now. And it still has 12 bars of battery capacity. It's like 86% on an American built 2014 Leaf. That's amazing. So some of these things are really, really good. So if you're looking for a used EV, you want to make sure you get a good battery. The range test tells a lot, but yeah, there's some good ones out there. You can still get a really good EV for under 20 grand. It just depends how far you want to go.
Right. Thanks.
Sorry for the big answer.
That's great. I appreciate it.
Stefan, I saw your hand up there.
No, he answered that. I was just going to mention the Leaf Pro or Leaf Spy Pro.
Okay. So
I think, yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, no.
Well, I was going to say, when you're looking at used EVs, I mean, EVs are not, they're not exempt from issues. You know, they do. I'll spend a second. I'll tell you what we spend money on used EVs. Like, so, you know, when I'm shopping for used EVs, I'm just like anybody else who's shopping for used EVs. I want the best deal with the car in the best shape, lowest mileage, whatever. I'm looking for the same thing as a buyer that you guys are when you're buying cars. So when I'm buying a used EV, I look at the usual body condition, interior condition, and the same thing that you would look at if you were buying a non-EV car. But I'm also looking at the heat and the air conditioning system in these things. We're starting to see failures of heating and air conditioning systems and onboard chargers on Leafs, Kia Souls, smart EVs, pretty much everything. Teslas, they all experience failures of some sort, and some are more expensive than others. We've seen failed brake master cylinders on Nissan Leafs, and they're about $5 grand for a new one because they have a big electronic component built in. We just ordered a charger. Like, we had a guy from Salt Spring that traded in a 2012 Leaf that I sold him in 2013, I think. And the charger had died, so he couldn't charge it on level 1 or level 2. He could still DC fast charge the vehicle, but you know, the thing had zero ability to charge with alternating current. So that was an issue because on Salt Spring, you don't have a DC fast charger. So yeah, we are starting to see some failures. You can get used parts, you can get parts off eBay, you can get parts from auto wreckers, or there are discount places to get new parts for Nissan, like Nissan Parts Direct is where we order chargers and inverters and stuff. I think the local Victoria dealer wanted something like $6,000 to put a charger in this car. We got a charger online, brand new from Nissan off the internet, and it was $1,378, and it's $300 for labor to put it in. So just like with gas cars or anything that we used to service, you know, in the past, if you have a decent mechanic who's got a good head on her or his shoulders, you'll be able to keep these things running at a reasonable cost for a really, really, really long time. As far as other failures go, yeah, I'll run down the Nissan Leaf stuff. It's really simple. Basically, a few brake master cylinders, a few onboard chargers for the first gen and the second gen Leaf. We've seen a few batteries, but people get used batteries out of the junkyards, and there's a few people in Victoria that install used batteries. So it's really easy to put a big battery in an old Leaf and, you know, get another 10 or 20 years out of it. We've seen a few failed wheel bearings, but that is you know, the fact that they're failing in EVs is irrelevant. Wheel bearings just fail, period. We don't do many brakes, but the brakes in EVs, older EVs, they do get seized from inactivity. So they should be dismantled and serviced every now and then, get all the road grime and salt and garbage out of the brake moving parts and whatnot. They don't go through brake pads and get utilized as much as a gas car. So, you know, inactivity is good for brake pad life, but inactivity is bad for caliper and rotor life. So if you have an old EV, you should use the brakes aggressively at least every couple of months and make sure your anti-lock brake system works. So there's a couple things you can do to keep old EVs running a long time. As far as maintenance on Teslas go, we're starting to see a lot of high mileage Teslas coming in, and My average repair bill for a Model S is around $4,000. When I buy one of those things, usually we're spending, yeah, I don't know. We've had a few that had leaks, and they're usually about $1,300 to $1,600 to fix window leaks in those. And Tesla's updated the parts, so they say, well, if you got a leak, we're going to replace all the chrome trim on the side of the car, around the glass. We're going to replace the glass itself, and the new seals are built into the glass. So that's a big bill. We do a lot of infotainment upgrades on Teslas to fix slow communications and whatnot. I've got one outside in the parking lot that doesn't work on 3G anymore because that was just discontinued last week. So it's a new upgrade for that, but I think it's $200 US for the upgrade to go to LTE. And we do a lot of, yeah, we see a lot of Teslas come in that just have really slow, unresponsive screens. And the majority of those are available for what's called a daughter board upgrade. The original RAM in these things was only seven megs or something, or no, it's seven gigs of RAM. And then and they use a lot of that with maps, like because these cars have really big mapping systems in them, and they're using Google, and they're moving a lot of data back and forth. They store a lot of data, so they actually started running out of memory. So Tesla has an upgrade to the daughter board. It's 64 gigs now, and I think it's I don't know, I can't remember, $1,200 or something like that. So we do a lot of those. And tires. EVs go through tires like crazy. The EVs either have new tires or they need new tires. That's like the two options for those things. They make a lot of torque and they're fun to drive, and everybody slams on the accelerator and has fun with them. So they just rip through tires, and they're heavier than gas cars. So heavy cars, lots of torque means they go through tires. Otherwise, from a maintenance perspective, they're pretty good. You know, make sure that windshield wipers work and the heat and the AC work, and make sure that charges and stops and goes, and they're all pretty safe. Pretty safe bet.
So Julian, I drive a 2019 Kona Ultimate that has.
Do you want to sell it?
You said you were going to say that. Just got my new battery late last fall.
Cool.
So does that have that buffer built in? Do
Yeah.
the Konas have that? And how would I know that?
Well, they don't. I don't believe that Hyundai allows for user adjustable ceiling. So if you want the specs on that battery and you want to know how much the usable energy is in the battery, you can probably find it on Wikipedia, or you might find it on, if you call the service, you won't find it from the service advisor. They'll be friendly, but probably not that knowledgeable. But if you speak with your service manager or whoever their EV technician is, you can ask, what is the total capacity of the battery and what is the usable capacity of the battery? And there will be a difference. And that buffer is the difference.
Excellent. Okay. And now someone has said to me that, or I shouldn't say someone said, I've heard it many times, that if you regularly use level 3, it degrades your battery faster, even if you're going just to 80%. And also I've heard that using level 1 is actually better than using, say, level 2 at home. What is your experience? What do you know about this? One of keep our car going as long as we can before we come to see you to trade up.
Let me get my pen to make a note. All right, I'm back. Okay, so first things first, I hate to bust you on this, but there's no such thing as level 3.
Okay.
So we have to stop saying level 3 because it's not a thing. We have
Okay.
level 1 and level 2, which are alternating current.
Mhm.
And level 1 and level 2 allows the vehicle to charge using grid alternating current power sent through an onboard vehicle charger, which is a component located in the back of the car or under the hood, depending on what car you have. The onboard charger is responsible for converting alternating current into direct current and putting it straight into your battery. DC fast charge, on the other hand, completely bypasses the entire charging system on the vehicle and just runs DC power from the charger, which is, you know, the big refrigerator thing, directly into your battery, while totally bypasses the onboard charger. So it's a whole different kettle of fish. So it does not have a level number associated with it. It's just either CHAdeMO or CCS or Tesla at DC fast charge. Now, whether a DC fast charge is hard on your battery or not depends on a lot of factors. Batteries really don't like massive temperature changes, massive fast temperature changes. The internals of batteries are fragile. They don't like big impact, and they don't like to expand and contract at a great rate. And in order to make sure that they stay physically intact and they don't fracture and crumble inside the battery, you have to control temperature. So if you take a battery that is 2 degrees Celsius and it's got a rate of, or a state of charge of 20%, you plug it into a DC fast charger, then what's going to happen is that the computer on the car is going to message back to the DC fast charge system about its temperature and state of charge. And the DC fast charger then limits its output according to what the car's battery management system says it can handle. So it's up to the battery management system and the software on the car to decide how much current it will allow in. The more current it allows in over a shorter amount of time, the more heat the battery will see. So if you avoid high power, high temperature systems shocking a cold battery, you'll extend the life of the battery. Having said that, you want to stay away from high temperatures. So for example, if you're driving a 24 kilowatt hour Leaf, or any Leaf for that matter, because they're all passively cooled, or a first gen Kia Soul, same deal. First or second gen Kia Soul, same deal. Air cooled battery. The Kia actually has a fan in the trunk. The Nissan doesn't. But if you have one of those things warmed up on a summer day and the battery's already at 30 degrees and you go plug into a DC fast charger, it'll probably be 35 or 37 degrees when you're finished fast charging. You can keep going. There's no big thermal shock to the battery. It's already warm, it's already expanded, so nothing's really going to change. You're just jamming some power into it, and that's fine. But back to what I said before, you want to stay away from high voltage situations for long periods of time. Typically when people are DC fast charging, it's because they need to cover more kilometers in a short amount of time and they want to charge and go. And in that case, yeah, you can go ahead and fill your battery, as provided that it's not too hot. You know, some of these cars have a temperature gauge. Nissan's got it on the left side of the dash. Kia's got it on the dash as well. If your battery gets too hot, it's going to physically start to decompose. They don't like that. They have a maximum happy spot of about 37 degrees. So where humans are happy, lithium-ion batteries are happy. We don't really like it much hotter than that, and we don't really particularly enjoy when it's much colder than, like, 3, 4, 5 degrees. So that's where lithium-ion batteries are the happiest. In terms of long life, I would say that if you DC fast charge, or if you plan to use your vehicle in such a way that you will be DC fast charging routinely, get a car with a thermal management system. It doesn't matter whether it uses ethylene glycol like a Tesla and some other brands, or whether it uses a chiller plate in the air conditioning system like BMW i3 and some others. You just want to make sure that you don't make that battery really hot for a really long time. They just don't like it. You look at cars in Phoenix and other places where they have a bad habit of painting parking lots black. You get, super hot sun cooking that pavement. It's basically like a frying pan. You park your EV on top of that. The bottom of the car is black. The battery is black. And it's just like you're literally putting something black in a frying pan. So those hot batteries, they don't last. I look at the auto auctions in Phoenix all the time, and all their EVs need batteries. That's BMW i3s, Teslas, Leafs, everything. They all need batteries. They're either getting a new battery under warranty or they've just had one. So we don't like heat with EVs. This climate, really, really good for EVs because it's never really too hot and it's never really too cold. In terms of level 1 and 2 charging, there's a few things to consider, which some people miss. So a couple things. Most BMS in most cars only perform cell balancing on level 2. So they need like more than 6 or 8 amps coming in. And I just got a message. I asked somebody to take that Kia Soul with a dead battery out to our other store, and they just messaged and said it broke down on the highway. I'm not answering that message. Anyway, so the level 2 stuff will allow a battery to do cell maintenance. So every cell in a battery, in Nissan Leaf and Kia Soul, there are 96 cells in the battery, and they all actually operate independently. Technically, the car can pull power from one cell or 20 cells or 80 cells or no cells, and the battery actually gets to shunt power and decide where it's pulling power from. Well, occasionally, you'll notice that your performance of your EV battery might be a little low if you haven't plugged into level 2 and let the vehicle fully charge and stay charged up overnight. And the reason for that is that your battery management system is going to take the voltage of the highest value of cells. So if you've got 96 cells and one of them is like 5% higher than all the others, then the battery management system is going to report back to the car to shut off the charging when that one cell reaches 100%. But if the bulk of your cells are only at 93% and you've got one that's at 100, It's the car's job to bleed that one cell down. But if it doesn't get done, then your car shuts off saying that it's full. And then you think, okay, well, this is cool. So I'll have 160K in my original Leaf. You're going to go for a drive, but you only drive 100K. And now it says it's empty. Well, it's because you got one cell that's really, really, really low compared to a whole bunch of the others. And when that one cell indicates that it's down to 5%, it indicates your pack is down to 5%. So what you do is you plug it into level 2, and you really want to run these batteries down like below 5% occasionally, maybe once every few months or something. Run it right low. Plug it in on level 2, not level 1, and you let it charge fully. And once it's fully charged, you leave it sit like overnight, fully charged. And what'll happen is the car will bleed down the cells that are a little high. It'll charge up the cells that are a little low. And in the morning, they'll all be straight across the top. And then you might see the same range number indicated on your dash, but you'll be able to go a lot further because it's not going to say it's empty as soon as one cell reads low. So that doesn't happen on level 1 with most brands. It only happens on level 2 because it takes a little bit more power. The car's got a little resistor on every cell, and it can actually bleed off voltage in overcharged cells, but it needs extra electrical capacity coming into the car to do it. So it doesn't really happen on level 1. Unless it's Tesla, then it happens no matter how you drive the car. They're always managed. So yeah, level 2 is important for a few different reasons. Now, imagine that here's the other thing about level 1 that you have to understand. I learned this a long time ago when I first started dealing with EVs, and a lot of people were slow to pick up on this, but now they're starting to get it. The car has ancillary components like a water pump and a cooling fan, and the actual onboard charger itself consumes a bunch of electricity, and you got a bunch of components that stay turned on. Just like when you turn on your TV, it's not just a screen that's lit up. You got a circuit board and a microprocessor and a bunch of other stuff running at the same time. And that stuff all has to be on to make the system work. So if you plug in your, let's say you have a 2016 Nissan Leaf, and you plug that into 120 volts and it's dead, that thing, let's see, at 120 volts, you get 10 kilometers an hour. So you'd be about 24 hours to charge a 24 kilowatt hour Leaf from 0 to full. Or sorry, well, yeah, whatever. So yeah, 40 kilowatt hour car would take 24 hours, that's right. So if you plug it into level 2, a 40 kilowatt hour car, you would be getting 50 kilometers an hour in there. So you'd be about 5 hours. So let's say you did that, let's say 3 times a week, you go through all that range. You can figure out that if you're 24 hours to recover a charge, and here, I'm gonna grab my calculator. Let's say it takes 24 hours to pick up a full charge on your 40 kilowatt hour Leaf on level 1. So it's 120 volts. You do that 3 times a week. Times 3 is 72 hours weekly charging to get enough range for you to do your thing in the car. Times 52 weeks. So that's 3,744 hours of charge time. That means that in order for you to charge your car on level 1, the water pump, the onboard charger, and the connector, which is feeding the power through, and the communication system, which is for your handshake protocol that talks to the charger in the car, and like every little component that's involved in the charging process, your battery management system, which is a separate circuit board in the battery, all that stuff has to run over the course of the year for 3,744 hours for you to be able to do your driving. Now, none of these things have an infinite lifespan. They all will burn out or die sometime eventually. Has anybody heard of a water pump failing? Well, of course, we all have. Gas cars, electric cars, it doesn't matter. Gas cars have been using electric water pumps for almost 25 years, and they fail, and they're like $3,000. So let's say we did the same amount of driving with the same car, but we're using level 2 now, which is 5 times faster. That's a 30 amp, 240 volt level 2 charger. So we can take this 3,744 hours and we can divide that by 5 because we're charging 5 times faster. That means that same equipment on the car used to charge the vehicle to run the vehicle for the same distance, now only running 748 hours. So you will extend the lifetime of the components on your vehicle that are utilized for charging by 5 times if you're charging on level 2 versus level 1. And nobody was taking me seriously in the beginning until their cars were off warranty and they started to get these EV system malfunction warning lights. And it's like, Julian, you're right. My water pump died and it's $2,250 from Nissan. Why is it so much money? I'm like, I don't know. So that is a real world comparison between level 1 and level 2 that should mean a lot. The other thing is parasitic loss. Your onboard systems on the car use about 300 watts worth of energy. The water pump and the onboard charger and the BMS consume 300 watts. If you're charging at 110 volts and 12 amps, that's 1,440 watts of energy coming into the car. So if you spend 300 watts out of 1,440 watts, you're giving up like 25% of your energy. So there's a 25% loss in the energy from the wall socket to the battery, because it takes a long time and your components are running for a long time. If you charge on level 2, you're giving up 300 watts of energy for 1/5 the time. But it's also a tinier percentage because you're putting in 7,200 watts and you're losing 300. So you're losing a tiny fraction of energy on level 2 compared to a massive portion of your energy on level 1. So level 1 is a worst case scenario, like, hey, I have no other option. I've got to charge. Okay, level 1 will do. But it's not the best for the battery because it doesn't balance cells. It's not the best for the environment because it burns 20% more power than it should. And it's not the best for time because it takes a long time, and it's not the best for the wear and tear on the parts because it makes them run at a super high duty cycle. So how's that for a comprehensive rundown between 1 and 2?
That's tremendous.
Wow.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Holy crow. Mike,
Deep
it's
dive.
really not this complicated. You just
Yeah,
plug in
yeah.
and drive. But
Well, that
this
was
is
very interesting that what Jillian just said there. It's
fantastic.
yeah.
You
'cause
won't
I was
hear it
thinking-
anywhere else.
I was thinking, maybe I don't even need to put a charger at my house, like a flow charger. I could just do 120 volts, but there you
You
said it.
can. Lots of people do.
Yeah, I've been doing that for years, but now I think I'm going to charge my car differently because we have a level 2 for the Bolt mainly, and I use it occasionally for the Smart. But I can see that I need to change my ways.
And we
Yeah,
live in a
it does
condo.
pay.
Yeah, we live in a condo, and we're have our EV ready plan being prepared right now. Should have it in a week or so from Edwards Electric in Victoria, and which is all for level 2. But we also had a presentation from PlugZeo, which is a level 1, or they call their 20 amp level 1.5. So, but it's now that I hear all of this, it's like, yeah, because our condo board is really looking seriously at the PlugZeo because it's going to be easier to put in and easier to sell to the ownership and the buildings, because we have 4 buildings, 229 units. We'd have to put in 229 level 2 charge wiring, and that's going to be like $300,000 by what we understand. And that's after rebates. So we're kind of like, oh, so that's where they think PlugZeo would be easier. But now that I hear this, it's like, oh no, it's going to be worth it for the long run for the owners.
Yeah. PlugZeo is actually a really interesting product. I talked to the guy who created the product, super interesting character. And I think he's got a really good product that fills a void, but I don't think it's a long-term solution for like mainstream for mainstream owners, but I mean, if there's no other option, PlugZeo is a really good option.
So
At some point, I still have to go out and charge on level 2 because I want to have my battery properly maintained.
Yeah, you would still need to do semi-routine level 2 charging would be a really good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest, sorry, go ahead.
Or DC.
Yeah, DC's fine. I mean, if I'll tell you a story in a minute about my son and DC fast charging, but it says in most owners' manuals in EVs, nobody reads owners' manuals, I understand that, but it does say in most owners' manuals that level 1 charging is not recommended for daily use. The Nissan owner's manual says it's recommended for travel and emergency. Travel meaning if you're going to stay in the hotel overnight and there's nowhere else to plug in, yeah, sure, charge up overnight. But yeah, they're pretty specific. I remember going to the Mercedes dealer in Victoria when the smart EVs first came out, and I asked whether consumer needs a level 2 charge station, and the sales lady came over to me and told me that she knew everything about EVs, and I'm like, amazing, let's see the owner's manual. And she said, no, you don't need a level 2. And I said, well, would you mind if I had a look at the car's owner's manual? So we opened it up to charging, and it says, do not use this as your primary charge means. I'm like, okay, it's right in the book. So yeah, for consumers who aren't totally sure, check the book. It'll usually clear it up. Not every manufacturer says that, but the majority do. The other thing about DC fast charging, my son actually, when he was 19, was the first skip the dishes driver to use an electric car. And he was working out of Victoria, and he worked for Motorize during the day, and he worked for skip the dishes at night. And he had a 2013 Nissan Leaf S model, and it had 40,000 kilometers when he started with the car, and it had a 12-bar battery. And he was pretty motivated. So he would leave work in Sydney at 4 o'clock, and he would arrive downtown with about 65% of his battery capacity remaining. But he would need about 250 kilometers in order to finish up his shift at night. So he would DC fast charge at Uptown. This is right when that charger came out, and there weren't very many EVs on the road. So he never had to wait to DC fast charge. So he would plug in at Uptown after work. He'd probably get there by 6 p.m., charge for about 20 or 25 minutes or something, whatever it took to get the battery full, go run around for 2.5, 3 hours until he was almost out of juice, go DC fast charge again, finish up whatever he had, come home, plug into the level 2 at night, and charge up at the house overnight, and then go back to work in the morning. He DC fast charged that car 5 days a week for 2 years, and ended up selling the car to Speed Pro Signs, and they still have it. And that car has 230,000 kilometers on it now, and it's still at 11 bars. So that battery never cooled down. It never saw a big thermal shock. It was hot all the time. Well, not hot all the time, but it maintained a steady temperature over a long period of time. And it never saw a high voltage for very long, because as soon as it was topped up, it was out on the road getting used again. So in terms of DC fast charging and high usage cases, no problem. These batteries absolutely love to be used. They just don't want to sit full for a long time. But if somebody's thinking, geez, would an EV work as a taxi? Yeah, the answer is yes. There's a Model 3 I don't know, I think it's in Europe right now, that just hit 1.5 million kilometers on the original battery. And in order to put 1.5 million K on a car that was built in 2018, that car's on the road 24/7. That's like a taxi, and it's doing a long distance. And the only way that you can get that many K on that car, so in such a short amount of time, is supercharging. And so now we've got cases of cars with well over 1 million K that get supercharged every single day on their original batteries. Not every one of them is on the original battery, but if there's an issue, it'd be covered by warranty for the first bit. And yeah, they have proven to be extremely reliable with lots of DC fast charging.
So if I was to, because like your example earlier, to run the battery down to 5% every once in a while, 3-4 times a year, I have no place to plug in at level 2. I could go to a level 2 charger, but that's going to take, I'm going to be in that parking lot for a long time, right? So if I was to use level 1 back at home, if we decided to go to the PlugZeo, so I run it down to the 5% DC, then to the 80%, and then do the balance at level 1. Is that feasible, do you think, or?
Well, that's not going to balance your cells.
Okay.
The reason you want to run the battery really, really low is so that the BMS recognizes when only one or only a few cells are really low, and it's going to trigger a balance event when it's full next time. So immediately after it recognizes there are some unusually low cells, that's when you want to bring it all the way up to full. And the cell balancing won't start until a bunch of cells have indicated they're full, and then it's plugged in for a couple hours additionally, because it takes time to bleed off these high cells one at a time. And then it goes into a charge cycle, and then it bleeds off a few tall ones, and then charges up some more. And then it will keep repeating that cycle over the night. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's got to be somewhere you can leave your car. Just check with a local car dealer and ask if you can plug it in overnight. I'm sure you can plug it in on my lot if you want.
Yeah, I'll drive down from Nanaimo and plug it in.
There you go. Perfect.
I've been in Victoria the last 3 weeks, but now I'm back here. Barbara, I think you had something to say there. Questions.
Yeah, actually, I apologize for being late. We always walk the dog in the morning, and sometimes we're a little slower doing that. So I didn't sort of hear the introduction or whatever, Julian, but it sounds to me like you do maintenance on a lot of different models. Do you is that only for things that you're selling, or do you do maintenance for, because my car is long since, off warranty. So if I bring my car in for maintenance, do you do that?
No, we don't do any maintenance.
Oh, okay.
We're in the business of selling electric vehicles. Well, I buy them. My partner sells them. We subcontract all of our maintenance.
Oh, you subcontract it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but do you subcontract it to the original dealers or to other
Yeah,
maintenance?
sometimes. I just had a leaf in here that had to go down to campus for an airbag module or something like that. Yeah, so I mean, we'll go wherever there's the best service available. Rand Automotive has been really good to us. We send lots of customers down there, and they have had pretty good feedback. I've sent a bunch of clients to CMOS Automotive in town, SIMOES. They're pretty good. And then I know Cowichan Auto Repair does a lot of hybrid and EV stuff.
Okay, so that's interesting because the Mercedes maintenance people said I needed to have my tie rods replaced because they were loose, which I have to say I didn't have any sort of symptoms of loose tie rods, so I was a little skeptical about how much it needed doing, and I couldn't find anywhere else where I could take it to even have someone have a look at it and say, yeah, they need doing, or no, you can wait for, or whatever. So I'm interested in, and again, with the bolt is off warranty now too, isn't it?
Pretty close.
Yeah. So we go to the dealers for the warrant for maintenance, but sometimes you want another opinion, shall we say, or
Yeah.
you're looking for somewhere that might give you a little better deal. We have friends on Salt Spring Island who have a smart EV, almost, I think it's maybe a year newer than ours, or thereabouts. And so they take it into Victoria, but I don't know if they're aware of any other places that would even, I mean, we couldn't even find someone who would touch it. And they didn't even want to look at it here. And there may be someone.
Your smart car?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there may be someone, but we don't know who it is. So.
Well, I mean, for example, like we've got a couple of different stores, and our West Shore store is closest to, well, there used to be a Big O Tires, and they were great. They used to do all our regular service stuff on all EVs. They had no problem. They burned down, actually, that store. Yeah, a European camper van was in there and had a fuel leak, and it burst into flames and burned the building to the ground. So yeah, it's terrible. That was a year ago. So now we use Midas, which is up the road, and Midas does all sorts of stuff for us. I mean, yeah, safety inspections, and we had a Nissan Leaf in at Midas for a new air conditioning compressor motor, and they couldn't handle that. We had to send that one to the dealer because Midas did not have some of the high voltage tools required to service the 200 volt AC air conditioner pump. Most cars, gas cars, so in the past, air conditioners used to be powered by a pulley and a belt. Sometime around 20 years ago, a lot of manufacturers got rid of the pulley and the belt and swapped that out for a DC electric motor, just like power steering used to be powered with a hydraulic pump and a pulley and a belt off the engine. Well, if you want the engine to stop and start, but you still need steering, well, you have to get rid of the mechanical system, go to electric. So like over 20 years ago, manufacturers started putting in electric power steering and electric air conditioning, and everything kind of switched to electric long before this latest round of EVs came around. However, the new EVs, since they have a 400 or 800 volt battery, they're not using 12 volt components anymore now, and they're not using DC. They're using AC for everything, just like you use in the house, like your refrigerator and your ceiling fan and everything in the house, your heat pump, all that stuff all runs on AC because it's more efficient and you need smaller, lighter wiring. So all the car manufacturers now are using high voltage alternating current through an inverter to run all the components on the car, except for power windows and stereos and headlights. That's still 12 volts for now. But yeah, so some mechanics will have an issue not having proper high voltage training or not having any proper safety equipment or tooling required for high voltage service work. So if they want to stay in business long term and they want to be working on newer stuff that they can charge more money to service, they should get EV certified. Now, the what are they called? The ARA, the Automotive Retailers Association, has what's called an EV friendly certification program, which is a training program to train existing highly qualified Red Seal mechanics how to work on and service modern electric cars. So the training is already there. BCIT has a program. Camosun College has a program. Pretty much every school either has now an EV systems training program for service technicians. And it's even started at a really, really young age. Like a lot of schools now are training kids to work in the EV sector. Did you know that some preschools now are using digital training tools? This is a true story. They're using digital training tools and games that are actually simulators teaching young minds how to program KUKO robots, which are used in automotive assembly plants. That's really happening right now. It's like, you know, the people pushing technology forward need to know that there are going to be people available in the future to service and maintain this stuff. So there's a whole massive movement on the way right now to train the next round of people that are going to maintain all the equipment that we're seeing show up on the road right now. And some mechanics and technicians are going to say, you know what, I've been doing things this way for a long time and I don't want to change, and that's fine. And they'll just retire and they won't get a piece of the pie. But a lot of really forward-thinking shops are buying tools and equipment and investing in their staff and training right now so they can handle this stuff. We used to have EVs serviced routinely out in Deep Cove at a little small shop called Deep Cove Service. And one of the service technicians there, his name's Kelly Turberfield. He's a really good friend of mine. I've known him for 35 years. He bought a Leaf 10 years ago, loved it. Then he bought a Tesla, loved it. Then he sold the Tesla to me to get a bigger Tesla, and he loved that. Then his wife got a Tesla, and he loved that. Then he sold me his Tesla because he bought a house, and he bought a Fiat 500 for the meantime. Well, I just bought his Fiat 500 back because he bought another Tesla. This is a gas car mechanic, okay? He loves EVs. So we used to bring all our EVs to him because he was in pretty close proximity to our Sydney store. But Ian, the owner of this service station, really didn't like that we were bringing these cars in and we weren't generating any parts bills, no belts, no spark plugs, no brake pads, no radiators, no. So he banned us from the shop because we bought lots of labor, but he didn't get any return on parts. Whereas if he's only servicing gas car customers or his traditional gas clientele, because he's the only service shop around within like 3 kilometers. So he gets a lot of these clientels that would come in and they would need oil changes and they would need like air filters and they'd need oil, just stuff. And EVs don't generate that kind of margin. So you've got a little bit of a division happening within the industry where some mechanics are on one side and they just want to stick to the old stuff, and some are thinking, wow, this is a gold mine. Look at all these consumers that I never had access to before. If I get my staff EV certified, we can bring all these consumers back in and get them in for regular stuff like tires. And eventually they'll need brakes and they'll need windshield wipers and they'll need who knows what. You know, somebody will break a door handle. Okay, you get to fix a door handle. So yeah, the money's there for whoever wants it. But if your mechanic won't touch the car, you're dealing with the wrong mechanic.
Yeah, so I guess it's a matter of finding which shops have those EV certified technicians then.
Yeah, and you might want to check out the EV friendly website. It's from the ARA, the Automotive Retailers Association. They've been working really hard on a curriculum to train new people, and they can tell you which shops are EV friendly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what is the website actually called? Do you know?
Oh, it's probably just ARA.com. I don't know. Let me see if I can. I got another monitor here. Give me 1 sec. Let me see if I can find it.
Barbara, just so you're aware, we are recording this. It will be on our YouTube channel. So if you want to listen back,
Yeah,
you can find that too. So
I've got another meeting that I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on. So
yeah,
I'm
You're multitasking.
I'm counting on this guy to understand all this technical stuff.
There you go. So yeah, just look up ARA EV friendly and you'll find it. I think they have a Facebook page as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go.
Thank you.
You're
Barb
welcome.
and Larry, we'll have to check what VIU is offering in their automotive mechanic training section.
yeah. Good point. No, Mike, how are you making out here? You're hearing a lot of technical information today. You're in the market for EV, and I'm sure you must have a million questions.
Yeah, no, it's excellent listening to all this because I'm quite a newbie, and I would like to get an electric vehicle. So unfortunately, I was thinking about my daughter an old Toyota Corolla 1998, and I was thinking, well, I'm going to trade that in on the Scrap It program, but missed out on that because I guess that's over now. But I guess there's a couple of there's some federal and provincial rebate programs out there still.
Yeah, you can get federal and provincial rebates on new.
On the used?
No.
New.
Okay.
Yeah, new only. But there are really not any new EVs available to purchase right now. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're trickling in slow. New EVs are trickling in slowly to retailers, but the majority of the retailers have pre-orders that far exceed what they're going to receive this year. So I had a customer in here yesterday that said they were interested in a new Leaf, and they called their Nissan dealer and they were told there will be 0 Leafs available in 2022 because the handful that are coming in are already spoken for. And I've heard the same thing from pretty much every single manufacturer. So inventory is pretty tight. So really, if you want an EV, there's more used available than new. And with the price incentive, the tax incentive on the used, no PST, all of a sudden used just got super desirable.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess this shortage in new ones is going to continue for a while.
Yeah, it's affecting it's not just like they can't just produce the car. And it's not a semiconductor thing either. Like that's a portion of it, but essentially manufacturers producing all goods are having a hard time getting all the parts required because, like like you look at any particular EV, I won't name any brands, but in one particular EV, you've probably got parts that come from China, Malaysia, the Philippines, Brazil, Mexico, Japan. Like there's parts that come from all over the world. And depending on how bad COVID is affecting factory output due to worker shortage, it's highly likely that you'll see part shortages that prevent manufacturers from being able to access everything they need to complete automobiles. And so if you're missing one part and you need 4,000 parts to build a car, you're not building the car. It's not happening. So, if everybody was vertically integrated and everybody made all of their own stuff from raw materials, well, we wouldn't have a supply shortage, but that's just not the way it works. So until everybody's healthy and everybody can go back to work in a predictable and reliable fashion, we're still going to see part shortages. And it's going to get worse because of this disruption with Russia and Ukraine. Like everything will be disrupted. So there's no new EVs for a while. Well, very few.
So do you, I guess the pressure, if you're in the used EV business, I guess the price of cars have gone up considerably in the last year or two.
Oh yeah, lots. Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, sometimes I look at the numbers and I'm like, this can't be right, because I used to buy stuff 40% cheaper than I can buy it for now, 50% in some cases, and it's really weird because when I log on to the U.S. auto auction to buy Fiat 500s, I know what I paid for the last 100 that I bought last year. I buy truckloads of these things. And they're nearly double what I was paying last year. But if I don't buy them, then I won't have anything outside to sell, and I won't make any money, and I'll have to lay off my staff. So it's like, if I can either have an empty lot and go broke, or I can pay whatever the going rate is and, recondition, mark it up accordingly and put it out on the road again. And if people buy it, great, then we still have business. But the costs are huge. There are still some low cost EVs out there. You can still get an EV for 10 grand. We just sold one for 6 yesterday, 7 something. But yeah, the prices are high.
Right.
Yeah, because I mentioned earlier about my Kona. So I went on Auto Trader just to see what there was in the general area, Lower Mainland, that sort of thing. And the one, there was one there identical to mine, same color, everything, similar mileage, everything. And it was higher priced than a new listing of a Kona.
Yeah.
For 2019 used. So,
yeah.
Wow.
But the new Kona is not a real thing. You can't go buy one.
No, because they're not in.
So that's like saying it's more expensive than this thing that you could get if you could get it.
If you could get it, right, exactly.
But you can't get it.
That's right.
So it's not more expensive than a new one because the new one doesn't exist.
But
I know what you mean. Like the price tag is really high. Like when I'm going to auction and I'm buying used electric vehicles and I'm paying as much as they sold for new, but they're 2.5 years old now, I gotta shake my head like, really? But the alternative is that I have no cars and we go out of business. That's it. So yeah, we're seeing inflation happen in real time here. And the EV price thing kind of, it sort of compounds because the more people who have EVs, the more people are talking about EVs, the more coworkers and neighbors and dog walkers realize that there's more EVs in the parking lot this week than there were last week and last month. So they start looking at EVs. And then you look at Super Bowl and it's EVs, 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 EVs. Well, ironically, none of those EVs in the Super Bowl ads you can go out and buy today. If you said, yes, and I've got 100 grand in my pocket, I'm going to buy 2. Which 2 shall I get? Let's go get them. No, you can't have them. So what that does is it pushes up demand and it makes people willing to pay more because they say, wow, I didn't realize these things were so hard to get. So when I see one, I'm just going to pay and get it because I want to own it. I don't want to think about it. I want to own it. So people are willing to pay more because they realize they don't have that many options. So that in itself pushes up the price. Lots of advertising, lots of media, lots of hype, increasing fuel supply or fuel prices and decreasing supply, and a provincial tax break. It's all really huge for EVs, but that spikes demand, and spiked demand spikes prices.
Fair enough.
So
Denise,
the
I noticed
economics of EVs, hey?
yeah, Denise, I noticed you put something in there about the level 1 charging earlier. Do you have a questions?
No question. I just got my battery replaced on my Bolt, so I obviously want to take care of it as best as possible. And so this has been really eye-opening. I appreciate it.
That's good. It's good to hear you got a new battery too.
Yeah, woohoo!
Woohoo, yeah, exactly.
They seem to be rolling out at a decent pace now. I've had a lot of customers with Bolts call me and say, listen, I just got a new battery. Do you want to buy my car? It's like, yes, I'll take it. So, but it's good. I'm glad to see GM's back on track with battery production anyway. Hopefully they can get these batteries replaced really quickly and then free up enough material supply to start producing the new cars again. Because I mean, if their entire battery capacity is going towards filling recalled batteries, can you imagine the financial implications of not being able to produce and sell new cars because of a battery shortage? Like, that's crippling to GM. So I really hope they can keep production maxed from LG and get these things rolling fast.
Now, Robert,
So I thought they had that GM announced that they were going to start manufacturing the Bolt EV and EUV in March or April or something like that.
Well, whenever they get enough components and parts. I mean, you need the parts to build the vehicles, and they don't. If they didn't have a recall and didn't have to replace, I don't know, 90,000 batteries at $20-something thousand a pop, which they see, it's just a pure loss. I mean, it's a massive, massive, massive hemorrhage. If they didn't have to worry about that, they would be selling new cars, and they would probably be a little bit profitable on those new cars, which would be great. But that's not what's happening right now. So they not only have to carry the cost to buy all these additional batteries and pay to deal with the old batteries, they're going to sell them off, but I don't know who's going to buy them because I don't know. They're pretty stable till they're not. But yeah, it's a nightmare for GM. And the battery manufacturers can only produce so many. And so right now, every battery that they replace in an existing Bolt on the road is displacing a new car sale, a new EV manufacturer and a new car sale. And unfortunately for GM, it kind of looks double bad because the most carbon heavy component in an EV is the battery because of the heat and energy required to build the battery. It's a lot of heat required, and you've got to take raw minerals and put a lot of energy into them in order to transform them into the product that you need them to be in order to build the batteries. So now you've got to build 2 EV batteries for one car. And yeah, so it's a bit of a carbon nightmare from every angle. Anyway, I hope it's short-lived, and I hope they get it sorted and get it moving. But it looks like they're making progress now.
Mike, you had a question? Another question, did you?
No, I'm just listening intently here.
Okay, well, because we're at just after 11 here now, so we had said we were going to go for 1 hour, so we've had our time here. And Julian, thank you so much for your vast amount of knowledge. It really helps us to understand a lot about our EVs and what we need for, if going forward to look for a used EV. So
yeah, sounds cool. Yeah, it's a big conversation to have, and especially for first-time buyers. There's you want to make sure you're making a good decision. You will have different experiences at different dealers, but I would say go visit your local dealer, support them if they have an EV in stock for you. And if you can't get questions answered, or you feel like you need more, or you want to test drive a larger selection or different models or whatever, come visit us at Motorize West Shore. We've got i3, Leaf, Kona, e-Golf. We don't have any Smarts. I don't know. We've got different stuff coming and going all the time. We've got Teslas. We've got all sorts of stuff. But yeah, if you know anybody who's looking for an EV, send them our way, and we'll do our best to make sure their questions are answered and they get looked after.
Super.
And thanks for having me.
I really
Thanks,
appreciate that.
Julian.
Yeah, thank you.
It's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
Have
you.
a great Saturday, everyone.
Yes,
Thanks.
you as well. Take
Most
care.
knowledgeable car salesman I've ever encountered.
But do I get a raise now? All right, guys,
If
take
it
it
was
easy.
up to me.
Yeah.